Let me ask you this because I just moved to a new city and I host this show. So I'm sure listeners think, oh, well, he has all the resources in the world. I so often do talk to doctors that have the same perspective that you have, but they're always retired and they never live near me. So when it comes to finding a good doctor, I have not yet stumbled across the right database, especially when it comes to pediatricians. And I was told the trick there is you never look for a pediatrician, look for a family doctor, because pediatricians basically to have that classification certification, you're just going to administer vaccines. You don't find vaccine hesitant pediatricians. It's almost like an oxymoron. So that was a useful trick. Look for a family doctor, one that usually can't take insurance, which is fine. I'll pay out of pocket. But what's your advice for people who want to try to find the right doctor rather than just not have one when emergencies happen? Because it's difficult.
Uh, well, they're trying to close all the doors. Like recently, fairly recently, the pediatricians, the American Academy of Pediatrics, which is to me criminal, told the physicians if a patient refuses to have their child vaccinated, don't have them as a patient.
Right.
And so people would write me and say, well, I can't find a pediatrician. They won't treat my kid. Well, like you say, other things happen, like emergencies. You have to use specialists. For instance, if something happens that's surgical, go to a surgeon. If you have something that's medicine, go to medicine. But there's certain ages that the medical doctor won't treat. Say that's a pediatric disease. You have to. So it's a matter of finding pediatricians that are believe this, and it's a handful of them. They're trying to squeeze us out.
Right.
I would go to a naturopath. And what I find is naturopaths are very well trained. They know a lot. And when it comes to other things, I would just take them to emergency room. According to the law, they can't refuse them. Now, a doctor's office can refuse you, but emergency room can't refuse you. They have to treat you. So if my child was really sick and had something that needed treating, I'd take them to emergency room.
Right. That makes sense.
They need to stand up is what they need to do. And they need to have courage. They need to tell the doctor no. I have a cousin who's a pretty tough woman. She's married to a guy who used to be an F-15 pilot. You do not mess with her. And she listens to everything I say. She got COVID and I cured her and she was fine. And so this physician was trying to convince her of something. She said, I'm not going to do it. And he started chewing her out. And she says, you don't talk to me that way. She chewed him out and he shut up. So what patients need to do is stand up for themselves. Say, no, I'm not going to get a yearly mammogram and I don't want to hear it out of your mouth again. I'm not going to take a statin. And if your doctor is one of these idiots who says, well, take the statin or I'll drop you as a patient, say, well, fine, write me a prescription, throw it in the garbage. Just don't take it and don't get it.
It's just so hard. I mean, I guess I really need to take a day, block out the calendar and find the right person. Because when I search naturopaths or holistic doctors or holistic pediatricians, you go to their website and they still administer vaccines and recommend the full schedule. So there really is no difference. And I worry about just a situation like that next pandemic and having someone in my phone that is going to give the ivermectin and the hydroxychloroquine and be on the right page. And I don't want to wait till a panicked, heightened situation to find that person. But there is no magic search term and there is no database. And you're right, they are squeezing these people out. I'm here. I want to give you my money. I want to keep you employed and you can keep me safe and we can have this relationship, but I just can't find that person.
It is hard and they're making it hard. They're making it hard on purpose. And they do it by brainwashing these doctors. Yeah. And they control the hospital. They control the pharmacies. And that's what this COVID did. For the first time, they refused to fill prescriptions. I've never known that. I've never known a doctor say, well, the family wants them to get ivermectin, and the hospital say, no. I've never heard of such a thing. It all started years ago when I was practicing, and you had to write an order on the chart that the patient could not get a flu vaccine or they would give them a flu vaccine.
Hmm.
So I just wrote on every patient, no flu vaccine. And that was the beginning. I said, why should I have to write an order on my patient's chart that they're not going to get a flu? And you're in the hospital, you're sick. You don't want to get vaccinated when you're sick. That's firm. And that's what happens to a lot of these autistic kids is they're sick. Like some of these experts in autism and have autism groups, and their kid was sick with a sore throat, a sore ear, or something like that. They went to Petrie. Oh, we vaccinate all the time on kids, and they vaccinated the kid, and he became autistic.
Oh.
Well, I described the mechanism in several articles. So this is why that occurs. And that pediatrician is ignorant to give a vaccine to an infected child, to a sick child. That is so well demonstrated in the scientific literature. It's because he doesn't know the first thing about it, or she doesn't know the first thing about something. Now, I had an ENT doctor whose sister was a pediatrician. He has an autistic kid, and he had contacted me to help him with his autistic kid. He said, even my sister won't listen to me. She listened to American Academy of Pediatrics. He can't even convince his sister, and he has an autistic child. And one of the things that really shocked me was I watched the hearing they had on autism and mercury. And that's when Gerberdine was head of the CDC. And he asked her, how many studies have they done on the safety of mercury in vaccine? And she whispered something. He said, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Speak up. And she said, none. He said, you've done no studies on the safety of mercury in vaccines, and you've been giving it for decades? He said, no, there's not a single study. Yeah. Well, there were studies in animals, and we know what happened to what mercury does to the brain. And there was an accident in Japan that made hundreds of people demented from mercury. So we know exactly what it does. She would lie. And they were putting it in the vaccine, and these kids get several doses. You know, it's like this Dr. Offit, who in my consideration is a liar. And Offit said, I would take 10,000 vaccines. That's just an antigen. That ain't going to hurt. It's like being exposed in the atmosphere. I challenged him. I said, well, let us give you 10,000 vaccines and see if you're still alive.
Yeah.
And somebody caught hold of it, and they said, Dr. Offit had a headline, a fake headline. And Dr. Offit dies after getting 10,000 vaccines that recommended by Dr. Blaylock. Wow. Well, he's a liar. I said, it's not the adjuvant. It's not the virus that you have in the vaccine. It's the adjuvant.
Yes, that's what I've heard.
And these kids go in, they take 9 adjuvants at once. I said, let me give that pediatrician 9 doses of adjuvant and see if they can walk out of that office alive. Yeah. They won't.
That's something that I learned.
You do the same thing to yourself that you're doing to this child. Well, I have to work. Well, that child has to live.
Right. I mean, that's something that just came up with this disclosure that Pfizer mentioned that they gave a special vaccine to their own staff. It's like, well, wait.
Over a third of them got saline.
Yeah, a different formulation than the rest of us. That's interesting. Why would you do that? And in Del Bigtree's movie Vaxxed, he goes over a study where they took the adjuvant out of the vaccine, and then they did the study, and then they showed, look, there's really not a correlation to autism. It's like, well, yeah, you took out a crucial component that you don't take out for the rest of us. And there you have it. And
it's all tricks.
It is all tricks and lies. And before we run out of time, I wanted to at least touch on another book of yours, The Liver Cure. I mean, this has been pretty well-rounded, more so than I planned. I thought we'd be on excitotoxins only, but we've really hit everything. But you have this other book, The Liver Cure. What is some of the information in there that people might find interesting when it comes to the liver itself? How do we keep it healthy? How do we detox it? What's important to know?
Well, the body has a detoxification system, not just in your liver, but in every cell. And you can increase that. For instance, like taurine and different sulfur containing amino acids and supplements and B vitamins. they increase the power of the detoxification. Now, your liver has a special circulatory system. It goes directly from the intestines to the liver before it enters the general circulation. That's to detoxify everything and store food. So it takes the carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids, and it stores it in the liver. Well, what we have is people that are consuming MSG, they're consuming high fructose corn syrup and trans fatty acids. It's producing a fatty liver. Fat's accumulating in the liver. It's suppressing the detoxification. And so now we have this epidemic among kids of fatty livers. Well, it's called non-alcoholic fatty liver, which is really benign, but there's a more serious one called non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, which progresses to cirrhosis and cancer of the liver. And so in the book, I give several supplements that will reverse that and ways to change your diet to stop this fat from accumulating in the liver. And they even found that you can reverse the early stages of fibrosis of the liver with different nutrient supplements. And I outline all of those in the book as well. I did a lot of research for that book. That was my last book. I put a lot in that, and it covers the sweeteners and processed foods and exposure to chemicals and how to protect your liver from. But your liver is your protector. It takes everything that you ingest and it goes through the liver first. And it extracts things and it detoxifies poisons and then it's released into the blood to protect you. So you need to protect your liver. Your liver is your guardian of your blood.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And as we're wrapping this up, I just want to say to people, the science is so clear. Don't wait until you have a health crisis to deal with what I will call most people's addiction to this processed food. It's like a cigarette smoker who says, well, I feel fine today. I'm going to quit the first signs of illness. It's like, well, now you're dealing with a health crisis and an addiction. Deal with your addiction today so you can stave off health issues tomorrow. I mean, clearly you would probably agree with that being good advice. Do you have anything to say for people in terms of getting a handle on that addiction or changing their patterns that they're probably stuck in?
Well, it's all willpower. And like I say, yeah, everybody likes donuts. Everybody likes candy bars, but you have to use willpower. And, we've always known that. It's this prevention. It's like the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And it's true. It's a lot easier, for instance, to cure infections when they first start than it is when they're full blown. I mean, sepsis kills tens of thousands of people every year. Well, that's the end stage. If you treat it early, you never get sepsis. And the same with all these things like atherosclerosis and cancer and heart disease. Treat them early, eat a good diet, exercise regularly, and you won't get these things. If you smoke and you say, well, I feel fine, and then you have a heart attack, well, your body's filled with atherosclerosis. When you have a heart attack, it's too late. You've got to, if you die, it's too late. But if you don't, it's not too late. You stop smoking, clean up your diet, and you take certain supplements that are known to clean out the atherosclerosis. And that's what people need to learn. And that's what I put in the book, Health and Nutrition Secrets That'll Save Your Life, is about each different type of system that'll change you. But there's some things you can't change, like fluoride of water. Well, don't drink water that has fluoride in it. Geoengineering, they're dropping nano aluminum in the sky. People are breathing it. Right. And what I tell you is nano aluminum goes through the nose directly to the brain. You're breathing it. It goes from your lungs into your blood and into your brain.
What do you do about that?
Well, the thing is, you just got to stay indoors more and make sure there's no chemtrails in the air when you're doing it. But it lasts for about 2 weeks after they drop it.
But you need sunlight. You need sunlight, and your air conditioning unit is probably pumping in the air from outside.
You need an air cleaner. All houses should have air cleaners.
Fair.
most of the products in your house are off-gassing and they're producing toxins. I had a patient one time built a brand new house, and he said, I couldn't go in the house. He said, I just broke out in horrible allergies from the house.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, and he said I had to get rid of the house. I couldn't live in it. There's all kinds of hazards, and they're increasing them, like this microwaves and 5G and all that kind of stuff. We know that these things are carcinogenic and neurotoxic, and they just keep increasing, increasing, increasing.
Yeah. I mean, I've always had like chronic allergies and I still have them today, even in this new place, in this totally new environment. But, I know I should do better too. I know that I have a lot of holes in my health game, and I do episodes like this to confront them and to try to motivate me, scare me into doing better. But I think when it comes to willpower, one of the best tools for me is spitefulness for them trying to manipulate me. I don't like to be manipulated. So when we go over the fact that this is a chemically addictive thing that's been engineered in a lab to pull on all your pleasure centers, that helps me to say no, because screw that. And I hope that the people listening feel similarly. But this has been a real treat. I know it's a marathon session around here. I ask for a lot of time, but I appreciate everything you shared and your dedication to educating people on the damage of processed foods, vaccines, and the whole system in general. Anything else to add about following up on your work, or where to get the books, or anything upcoming you have coming out? You mentioned a newsletter that people should be informed on how to get.
Yeah, I write a regular newsletter, the Blaylock Health Report it's published by Newsmax, and it comes out every month. They have a print edition and a edition for the computer, but I write that once a month, and I usually do pretty extensive research for each newsletter, and I get a lot of feedback from patients that are elderly saying they've gotten a lot better. I had patients with arrhythmia that's been on all these drugs and they never got any better, and I'd switch them to something else that's natural, and they'd say, I'm fine. it got well. Some of these drugs are deadly, especially the more recent drugs, like statins. I tell people never take a statin. I don't care what they say. And there was a cardiologist at one of the big universities who, after the patent ran out on statins, he said, statins have been oversold. And I always ask people, I said, well, did your cardiologist go out of business? Apparently there's no more heart attacks because almost everybody is taking statins now. Did he go out of business? Is there no heart attacks anymore? And you look at the rates, heart attack rates are the same. They haven't changed at all. They're lying.
Right.
And they were.
Man, yeah, the evidence should be right there, right? So
Yeah, I mean, just common observations like you were saying you do is just observe. I mean, you look and you say, well, they said this is the greatest advance in heart attack ever is statins. Well, have heart attacks disappeared? Have they been cut in half? I said, that's what happened with some other things. They just disappeared when people started doing the right thing.
yeah, if
And
all this isn't a problem, why aren't we the healthiest nation we've ever been? It should be so
yeah,
obvious.